Fighting games have a unique relationship when it comes to customization. For some titles, the developers have a defined vision for those characters. They give them extensive backstories, a unique visual style. For other titles, they are a little bit more free-flowing. The player may have a choice of different moves, or they might be able to build an entire character for themselves. At the end of the day, the number of people that are simply trying to get the best character possible is rather small. There are a lot more players that are simply looking to utilize characters as a way to express themselves through their gameplay or through their aesthetics. That is why cosplaying is such a big thing. But that doesn't mean that those players that are choosing aesthetics over power are not looking for the W. They might in fact want to prove a point by playing characters that are off the meta. Tekken is one such game that allows players to do pretty much anything they want, play any style they want. Of course, there are gonna be some play styles that are more prominent than others, or more powerful, or easier to execute, but there are always people playing all of them. Hello everybody, my name is Sebastián Quintanilla, senior writer here at DashFight, and today I'm gonna walk you through the top archetypes in Tekken. Rushdown characters are perhaps the most intuitive to play for newcomers to the genre. Their main shtick is to exert constant pressure with attacks, forcing the opponent to be on the defensive and trapping them in block loops, threatening to do some delay strings or even a combo. An aggressive approach, however, doesn't mean mindless approach. To be successful in this style, you need to know both your moves and those of your opponent. You will simply not be able to force your opponent into submission if your move is -20 on block and they have a 15 frame punish ready to go. Hwoarang is the quintessential rushdown character. Many of his kicks have favorable frames. He's quick and can stay on top of his opponent, and his stances allow him for many options, be it mix-ups, cancels, or strings. The last thing you should do against them is to challenge them with your moves. Instead, you should look for a movement escape, a sidestep, a backdash, or a parry. Somewhat related to the Rushdown archetype is the Mixup one. These fighters excelled at a different kind of pressure. Mind games. They will make you guess, and then guess again, and again, and again, and again. Their gameplay tools include several variations of singular strings, move startup animations that can go in different directions, or simply unreadable stances. This makes defending against mix-up heavy fighters a guessing game. Do I crouch guard a low, or do I stand and try to block on reaction? In reality, you have much more options than just those two. You can sidestep, hell sweeps, backdash from uppercuts, or reaction parry the slower lows. Yes, movement in Tekken 7 is not as powerful as it was in games before, but having options still beats not having any. Essentially, do whatever you can to not get launched, even if it means eating a relatively damaging meat. Still, saying it doesn't make it easier for people facing competent Fakurams, who in addition to their great mix-up power, they also have really good reach. A recent character that embodies both of the archetypes we've been talking about so far is Lydia. Her stances are a point of frustration for many players if she's allowed to settle in her rhythm. If not, she can still rely on her simple but very powerful moves to make sure that her opponent is always on the back foot. We're gonna go ahead and talk about grapplers, and at this point you should know that you can guess which button to press to break a throw based on the hand that your opponent is extending first. That covers the bases, I suppose. And while many characters have great grab options in their kits, hello Julia Dragunov, thank you for making an appearance once again, we only have two pure grapplers in Tekken 7, King and Armor King, with Craig Marduk being somewhere nearby. The most terrifying thing about them, for any player, unless you're a top tier or professional, is that they are able to mix their throws. Many of their startups share the same animation while requiring different breaks, and they even have grab chains and death loops that can easily lead you to your demise if not broken properly. Poking isn't so much something a character is good at, but instead a player is good at that. Most fighters are somewhat well equipped to throw out damage in short bursts, retreating before the opponent replies and not committing into those big combos. Playing like this is often seen as more difficult than straight up Rushdown. It might be so because it requires a solid matchup knowledge to gauge how much you can get away with in any given situation. You generally don't want to overcommit and end up being launched into the air and suffering the consequences. Still, there are some naturally predisposed characters that will be better at this style of play. Law, Miguel, Shin, Sumi, Katarina, and even the mix-up beast that is Fakuram are great options here. They either have great simple tools like a down forward 1 or fast lows, or any other tool that helps deal damage in short windows of time. Playing against this playstyle doesn't require you to go out of your way to counter it. If anything, it has been purposely made to put you off your plan, get frustrated and overly aggressive, start making mistakes. Always remember not to give them what they want. Be calm and follow your plan. Now, bear with me. I know this category is a little too broad, but we will break it down further. The following subcategories that we're going to talk about all follow the same idea: playing defensively, being on the back foot, but the decision to do so is deliberate and not an indicator of lack of skill. Starting out with turtling and counter hit baiting. Characters of this archetype generally prefer to stay back, sidestepping or backdashing from the incoming attacks while trying to make the opponent whiff or catch them on a counter hit. This approach rounds counter to the Rushdown playstyle. Instead of going for the initiative yourself, you're willing to give it all away and wait for your opponent to do a misplay. A great fighter for these sorts of playstyles is Brian Fury. Many of his damaging combos start with a counter hit, as he is the master of getting those out of his opponents. Our next subcategory is evasion. Characters that have moves or stances that get them out of the way of some attacks. They are even better at negating pressure-heavy opponents, as they don't have to just wait, they actively punish. Two essential characters in this category are Ling Xiaoyu and Safina. Both possess low stances that completely ignore mid and high moves and can launch their own offensive from those positions. But an even better example is Steve Fox. He even has dedicated buttons for it. Going even further in this rabbit hole, you have the parries and move negations. These are fighters that can simply ignore your hits or even intercept them and turn them back to you. Characters like Asuka, Leroy, or Fang have reversal tools in their arsenal, but many others have access to something as simple as super armor. To fight them well, you have to be mindful of their windows of opportunity to counter you. Not everyone can just do it on reaction, so baiting these tools out of your opponent and punishing them for it is the way to go. Don't follow them into their guessing game. You have much more to lose if you end up getting caught. Obviously, these are not all the archetypes that exist in Tekken, let alone fighting games as a whole. There are projectile spammers, mobility demons that fly all over the screen, range abusers, and even the Mishimas can be considered their own archetype. So why don't you tell us, what are the archetypes that you love the most in fighting games? I've been Sebastian Quintanilla for DashFight. Thank you for watching and catch you next time.